Hi everyone, welcome to my studio. My name is Candy Candy Soriano, and I blog at stampwithcandy.com. And today I'm here to talk to you about the Enduring Beauty bundle in the spring mini catalog. Oh my goodness, wait till you see this, and we're going to go right to it because I'm so excited. So it's on page 38, and it might be a little bit confusing because there's these pieces, and do they go together? What's the bundle? But I'm here to help you understand this part of it because this is so exciting, but the rest of it too. So we're going to start with looking at the stamp set, which you can see has a big flower image, some littler flowers, and five, I guess, really nice sentiments. I love the font, and it looks gorgeous with this stamp set. And then it also comes with the dies. Right here are the dies. And as you can see, there's one that cuts out the big floral image. There's another one that cuts out most of the sentiments. This one is too big, but all of the rest of them fit nicely in there. And then we have all these little leaves that we can cut out, and we can cut out a lot of other, a number of little flowers. So the little flowers would be good for, and these leaves for embellishments or, just making the card, adding some texture to the card. What I like about it though is there's two of each. So you can do a lot at once, which, like let's say you wanted to cut out 5 of these. Wow, you'd be doing it, most die sets you'd be running that through 5 times, but now here you're not. Okay, so that's that. But that's not all that's in the bundle. The other part that's in this bundle, and it's not like anything we've really had before, kind of like one in the fall mini, but this one, I've been wanting these forever, and that's these masks. And why do I like these masks so much? Because if you look at them, you could see there's a notch here and a number, and you can place them on the stamp set. And this isn't to scale, so I'm not going to be able to really show you until I show you the cards or the samples. Here, let me just grab one. I wasn't going to do it this way, but this is probably the best way to show you. Here's a sample of what I've cut, and you can see if I lay this mask here that I can actually mask off the leaves and color, and I'm not getting this right because this is too slippery. You can mask off the leaves and you can color with your blenders the different pieces, right? So this will just color the flowers, and then the next mask will color the leaves, masking off the flowers, and then the third mask is going to color the detail on the flowers, and then the fourth mask will color the detail on the leaves, and then the fifth mask will color the detail on the stems if you wanted to. Okay, so this is what I've been asking Stampin' Up! for a really long time, because it gives you such great effects, and it's fairly easy to do. So I'm going to show you that, but first I wanted to show you, and I'm only showing you one card because I think at this point, everybody could make a card, and I don't want to spend time on the details of a card because I really want you to see and use this stamp set. So here's one where I stamped it. Now you'll notice that the outline isn't really harsh because when I'm doing coloring with my blends, I prefer to use basic gray for my image, not Memento. It just gives it a softer edge, and it lets the colors blend a little bit more. Sometimes I will use Memento. So this one I colored using Highland Heather and Fresh Freesia, the blends. And then for this I used Lemon Lime Twist. Wow, it's a tongue twister. and Granny Apple Green for those leaves. Now, the way I figured out which colors I'd like to use is, and I thought that I had that out on my desk, but it's not. So give me a sec. I love, 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 I recently moved and I love, love, love my new craft room because everything is within arm's reach. All I have to do is swivel on my Barbie pink chair. So what I did for some of the color combinations, and you know, I make my own sometimes, but if you're kind of not sure about it, there's a Color Buddies handout, and your demonstrator can get it for you and email it. And so I use some of the color combinations that were in here. So for instance, Fresh Freesia and Highland Heather, Lemon Lime Twist, and Granny Apple Green. And if I were to use a different color, I'd also use something called a color coach that helps you figure out which greens go with which colors. So that's how I come up with many of my color combinations. So anyway, this one was colored, and you could make a very pretty card with this, right? But the next one I'm going to show you with that suite, I did something a little bit different. And that's I embossed the image with white embossing powder, and then I colored around it with Calypso Coral and Petal Pink, and then Lost Lagoon and Mossy Meadow. Lost Lagoon and Pretty Peacock, sorry. So you can see the white embossing, and you can't really use the lines because it would be an emboss. It resists the ink. But I think this was a pretty and soft kind of interpretation. And so I really like doing it this way. If you wanted more definitive lines, you could do the same thing with black embossing powder. And then once you see how the masks work, which is what I'm going to do next, you can also not stamp the image and just take a piece of paper and use the 4 masks and get this image. And this is what I like about it, is because now I can use those masks to do some backgrounds, right? Now I could do that with a stamped image, but using the masks is just so easy, as you're going to see in a minute, that you're probably going to I hope you're going to fall in love with this when I'm done. So let's get started. Now, I am going to show you the card, and then I'm going to walk you through it, but I really want to focus on how you use the masks because if I had an hour, I'd go through the whole thing, but I only have 20 minutes. So I got to kind of watch my time. So here is the card we're going to make, or I'm going to show you how to make, okay? So it's basic cherry cobbler cardstock and cut in the usual way. Although this would work with a top fold too. So, but I do 5.5, 5.5 by 11, score at 4 1/4. That's my favorite. Although I'm falling in love with the top fold because they stand up better if you're going to display it. All right, and then I added a piece of basic white. But by itself, it's too boring. So I used this new free embossing folder called Softly Sophisticated, and you get that for a celebration reward. So that starts today, or well, when you watch this video, and it will go through the end of February, and you can get this for, I believe it's a $50 purchase. And so I just love the way it adds some texture and interest to the card, and it's not really hard to do. And then I took a layer of cherry cobbler as a mat. And here, let me look at my notes because I can tell you how big that is. All right, so the cherry cobbler is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. So this piece is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. And then I took a piece of basic white that is 3 1/8 by 4 3/8. And I used one of the masks from the annual catalog to put a little color on that. And I like the idea of this one because it kind of looks like a lattice. And, you know, we're pretty used to using these masks. Sorry, I got it the wrong way. But anyway, so I just put it on there, and I use basic gray ink because it looks good with cherry cobbler. And I wanted something in the background, but I didn't want it to take away from the beautiful focal image. Okay. Then I also cut a bunch of those extra pieces Remember when I was talking about the dies? I cut a bunch of these, and then I just tucked them in there with some glue. And then the last piece is I embossed, I stamped the sentiment in basic gray to go with the theme sort of. And then I used some iridescent sequins, and these are also from the annual catalog. They're called iridescent rhinestones. Here, let me get them out of that because that'll glare. All right, so iridescent limestones, and really you can't do them justice. You gotta, I mean, they're really pretty. They don't look pretty all lumped together like this because they're almost holographic, but when they're on a card like this, they just really add the right amount of bling. Okay, one other thing I wanted to show you before I start showing you how to create that focal image is I also stamped it and colored it on the envelope and then on the inside. So I use those same masks on the envelope and the inside, okay? All right, so to save time, again, because what I really want to do is show you how those masks work, I stamped the image in basic gray. Here, let me get it into your focal, right on the camera there. And that's kind of crooked, isn't it? Even though I think it's straight. All right, here we go. I've got it. All right, and I am just going to tape this down a little bit because we don't want it to move while I'm doing this. Okay. Now, you may wonder what kind of surface I'm working on, and I just want to mention it briefly. But during Celebration, Stampin' Up! Has a join offer where you can join and get $125 worth of product for $99 and free shipping, but you also get one of these, which is about a $60 value. There is so much you can do with this glass mat, and I love it because it's the perfect size. I've had other glass mats that were bigger and they take up too much real estate on my desk. So this is the perfect size. So, contact your demonstrator if you're interested in getting that as part of, your joining during Celebration. Okay, I don't want to spend a lot of time on all the things it can do, but I'm going to just show you a couple things. All right, so the 4 inks I'm using are Cherry Cobbler. Here, let me see if I can get that so you can read it. I'm not very good at this. All right, there we go. Cherry Cobbler, Mossy Meadow, Old Olive, and I've already got the Real Red open. And, I never thought to put Real Red and Cherry Cobbler together, but I gotta admit, look at this. That's beautiful, isn't it? Okay, so now comes the mask part. And let me make sure I've got this. All right, so what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna take number 1. I got them in reverse order now. And you can see this little registration mark? Well, right under it, can you see that? Probably not. There's a number 1. That says that's the first one you should do. And this is the only one you really have to line up because once you get this lined up, I'm going to show you how you don't have to line up the rest. And I'm sorry if I'm getting my head in the way, but I have really bad depth perception. So do I have this right? Or do I have it upside down? Yeah, I have it upside down, sorry. Now, I could have just, flipped the stencil, but I want to make a point about how you use these. All right, that's better. I was wondering why it wasn't lining up. So this one's really easy to line up. It's no different than lining up a 2-step stamp. Now, I am going to put a couple pieces of low tack tape on it because I don't want it to move while I'm stenciling. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And when I stamped it, I didn't get it really lined up. But one of the things I do is I use my marker and I do that V, right? And then I also do a line right across here so that I can line it up for the subsequent steps very quickly. Okay, now you noticed I wrote on this glass, right? Well, okay, because that's one of the best things it does is you wipe that off with water. It's fabulous. I just love using it. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start blending. So what I like about the mat is it saves me a ton of grid paper because this one isn't quite right yet. It must have moved as I was talking. Maybe I didn't have it right at the start, so that would be okay. All right, there we go. All right, so you want to, like, when you go like this, you don't really want to go right to it because it'll be too blotchy. So you always start from the side, but notice how I just, and you come in and I rub in a circular motion. And you know what? Rubbing harder doesn't get you more ink. In fact, it gets you less. A light touch gets you more ink because when you press down too much, you don't get the ink at the bottom, at the top of the bristles, right? So you can see, now you see what I'm doing here. I am just using that ink that I rubbed off to continue coloring these flowers, right? So I'm just going to keep using that ink and not go back to my pad until I'm not getting any more ink off of it, right? And you can't do that with scrap paper or grid paper. So I think I need just a little bit more because my biggest flower is looking a little pale. But there we go. I'm just doing this and this and this. And of course, I could keep layering the ink on and get nice deep colors on this. But, you know, as I said, I only have 20 minutes and, you know, you can play around with it. Okay, so I'm done with that. And let me pull this up. And look how nice those look. Isn't that pretty? Oh my God, I just love it. Okay, so we've got our first stencil down. And then I just set it over to the side. To clean the stencil, I just use baby wipes, or sometimes I go wash them in the sink, depending on where I am. You know, how close I am to a sink. Okay, so the next step is green Old Olive. So let me get the right brush out and let me get the right mask out. Here we go. Now, what I do is I just line this up with those lines I made earlier. And there we go. You see it's all nice and lined up. So I'm going to put this in. Now, if you don't want to use tape, there are products, but not sold by Stampin' Up, that you can use to hold your image and the masks in place. Waffle Flower House has one called the Grip Mat, and it's pretty good. Now, that one I went right to it, but it doesn't really matter. And so here we go. All right, I'm just adding the ink. This is Old Olive. It's my base. It's my base ink. All right, so I need a little more, and we'll just go grab some. And, you know, it doesn't hurt to not get them uniform because some shading looks really nice. And then look at that, perfectly colored, and you don't go out of the lines, which for me is a big deal. All right, now I'm going to add the third mask, and the third color, which is Cherry Cobbler. And that's going to do the highlights. Now, look at this. This is a mess because, well, as you saw, I tried using these a variety of different ways. And one of them was I tried using blends on it. Well, all it did was stain the mask and ruin the end of my blend. So that's a tip. Do not use your blends for this. All right, once again, I'm going to line it up the way, you know, just the way I did before with that registration mark. Does that look good underneath? Yes, it does. It's hard for me to do it without getting my head in the shot because you got to be able to see. But all right, now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do this and pull up some more and do this and do this and do this. And you just want to make sure you get them all. But it's really easy. You just kind of do that. All right, so now I look at this and I think, well, it looks nice, but I would like the accents to be a little bit darker. And guess what? You just put your thing back on it and you line it up, make sure it's still lined up, and you just do it again. Right? So I could just keep going to make those darker, but I actually kind of like the way it looks now. Well, maybe I will do them again a little bit. Yeah, I could have gone darker on them. There we go. I also don't want to spend all night because after a while this feels like watching paint dry. Okay, so those are a little bit darker and they're more of what I expected. But you can see that these are shaded now, and I didn't have to do any fancy work with my blends. I just put the mask on and, you know, did it. So now we're going to do our last color, and this one's really easy to line up because now you got all that other color on there. You can really see where it goes. And yeah, I should be lining it up on the registration mark, but there's always a little wiggle room on that registration mark, unfortunately. So anyway, there, that's good. I'm going to do that. I'm going to bring in a Mossy Meadow ink pad and grab my Mossy Meadow brush. And this is one where you want to make sure you get all these little things because those are stems for the flowers. Again, just add a little bit of color to it. And this one, when I did mine, I wasn't even stamping it off because you're not gonna, there's not enough room to get a big blotch on it. Okay, see what it looks like. Voila. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? And how long did that take? If you were coloring it with blends, it would have taken you probably twice as long. Okay, and so now what I would do is, of course, die cut it and put it onto my card. And you know, if I wanted a little bit more bling, I'd put a little Wink of Stella on it, but I didn't do that. Okay, so here's the final product. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I've convinced you that you really want to try these masks because they are so much fun, and they make it so easy too to try different color combinations because, you know, it's do a little this, do a little that, and you're all done. All right, well, thanks for watching, and happy stamping.